Good morning. Can you hear me all
How are
right?
you?
I am well.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes, you
Good.
look great. You are up. That makes one of us.
Yes, I have an iced coffee here. Yes.
So I am gonna quickly, may I share my slide just to make sure?
Please go ahead.
What do I click on?
Okay. Hello.
Hi. We're working in the room at the Madrid. We're just testing.
Yeah, we are testing the technical things.
Hi.
Okay.
But you guys are good to go. Keep doing what you're doing.
Do you see my slide?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. We can
Do you
see your.
Yeah. Do you see any notes around?
No, but if you like, you can go and put it on the presentation mode. So at the one time, we can just see one of the slides.
Right.
Perfect.
No, there's a little now.
It came up and went down.
Yeah, went away.
Again, yeah.
Because the problem is the moment I do it there, then it takes up the whole thing and I can't see my notes. So.
Oh, okay.
Do you have one monitor in front of you or two?
I have one.
Okay. If you would like, what we can do is I can put your screens on my end on our computer, and that
Oh
way. Oh
my goodness, what a blessing.
Yeah, I'll do that for you.
Okay, so how do I share it? I added a few things. Do I share it here with you?
If you added, you should upload it in the box folder as soon as possible.
Where? Oh, that box?
Yes. In your session folder.
No, she just has it's just an upload box. We'll see it.
Okay.
Yeah,
just upload it and we can see it.
Okay, let me do it right away. So sorry.
It was something that you'll have to be here while she's speaking to scroll through her slides for her. That's
Okay.
all. And I think we might be able to make this a little bit different. I think someone yesterday did this for a speaker. Yeah, they moved the thing. You can sit at your table and scroll forward. I'm gonna keep it for right now, just for a second. Because we're gonna put our slides up and everything. But once you want to,
after that, I can do it.
yes, that's just wait up to stand here. And also, I'd like to ask them where they want the camera pointed because obviously they're not here, so we're not gonna point at an empty podium. So, hello. Things seems to be okay so far. I'm gonna jinx everything by saying that I know. So we're waiting for it. They'll come right here after everybody.
Okay.
We're gonna move that.
Please let us know once it's uploaded.
Could I ask you a question? Is it too late? I have just a script that I'm going to be showing for access as well, and I just did not have it ready in time to put on very early to the box. Could I put it in now? I don't need to.
I think so. Forgot to put something in box. You can do that now.
Okay, I'll put it in there now just so people can access it too. Okay, great. Thank you.
So I submitted it in the box.
I'll go check. But Elizabeth, if you're sharing your screen for yourself, then you can do whatever you'd like because that's in your hands. You're good. I'll go look for your presentation.
Thank you. So now, do we all get 25 minutes or 20 minutes?
That's up to them to decide. There are 3 speakers. You had a list of speakers.
I think you are 3 speakers and you can divide the time between you. We have the sessions until noon.
11:45.
11:45. Yeah.
Double check. Let's see.
Maulud. Did I pronounce your name right, Maulud?
Yes, it's correct.
Perfect. So the thing is, Maulud, what happened, we were 3, then we only saw 2 names. So we thought, okay, we can take 25, 30 minutes. But if we are back to 3, then I can cut mine to 20 minutes.
And I can cut back too. I mean, if I'm going first, I can try to keep it shorter for you either way.
Okay, let us check that.
Check. Will you open your
Okay, the time slot is 10:30 to 11:45. And as we need some time for questions, so I think at most we can stay here until noon.
No, we wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, people go to the
deserve your
lunch.
Yeah, so there is, so Michael Keithley is also in this
So we
presentation.
have time.
People.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So
Is
did
our-
you get my slides?
I did, yes.
Thank you.
I see revised. We're good.
Does
So
it
I
look like-
would say, I would say like our next slide talks about something like that so that you would get a hint to go to the next one.
Okay, that's fine. I will do
Thank
that.
you.
I'm gonna go ahead and start the meeting so she can see it.
Mhm. So now you can see the slides from IVAC account. Yeah.
Recording in progress.
Sarah is pulling up these slides.
Yeah, because your computer is. 1 second.
Not yet, but I'm sure it would.
So does it look like Michael, the third presenter, is not here?
No, he's coming. He'll be here.
Okay.
Yay, thank you.
We'll be able to just skip through them for you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
For
Yeah,
right
so
now-
when I would say this takes us to the next slide, or, that way we would know. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
And they're just like 15 slides, and yeah.
All right. I need to turn it on. Okay, can you guys hear me okay? Perfect. All right, I'm gonna give this to you. That way, if anyone has questions during the thing, they can ask them with this, because that way they can hear everybody. All right, would you guys like for me to turn the camera to face the audience instead of facing the podium, since you guys are all virtual? I probably can't hear you very well.
Your choice. Since we
Yeah,
didn't
I'll
pay anybody to be there, I hardly see audience.
I agree. Either way, it's fine with me.
There is.
Okay, here, I'll test it real quick. Like this.
I think it's good.
Okay. We'll move it back whenever we move the next session.
Okay.
But you've got the remote and you've got the presentation right here ready to go. So you should be good to go. And then you can your computer, make sure it's working well. I'll bring you the mouse in case as you go. But I think we've not shared the screen yet. I was gonna wait until they got started. You'll still need to share the screen because it's not quite.
Okay, so can you hear me now?
Sorry.
Can you hear me? Okay, great.
Good morning, everybody. Are you able to hear me okay?
Hello, Michael. Yeah, we can hear you.
Should I go ahead and upload my slide deck? Am I first or am I later?
I don't know.
It's the order. Let's.
Oh, okay, okay, sorry.
Is there no order?
So Elizabeth is the first speaker.
Wait, no, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. Elizabeth Elizabeth Miller is the first one as a chair, and you are welcome to share your screen if you're fine with your slides. It's fine. You can share your screen and whatever you like.
Okay, fantastic.
And if they want to go in different order, that's all for them. But I mean, that's what we have, but they can do whatever best for the three of them. All right, you've got this covered? We're very
Yeah, I
confident
think so.
what you
Yeah,
got.
I'm good. Thank you.
I'm gonna get out of your way, let you guys get started. If you have any
Thank you.
problems, just text me, I'm ready. But I know you
Sure.
got it.
Thanks. Elizabeth, do you like to share your screen?
Yeah, I will do that. I'm going to actually share an access script of my talk. So it'll just be going alongside while I present. So I'll do that right now. Let's see here. I apologize. I thought this would not give me any trouble, but it just says my browser is blocking the share screen. So I'm just looking at that right now. Does anyone know if my browser blocks it? Is there a good way to quickly stop that from happening here?
I have no. I just changed the option for you to share your screen. Can you please try it again?
Sure. Sorry, let's see here. I apologize for this. 1 second here. If it really doesn't let me, I'll just go from here. But I thought I could quickly. It's something in my actual browser. So you know what? I don't want to keep anyone else. I know we're on only limited time. Why don't I actually just mess with this in the background? Do other folks want to go first? Other presenters, presenter 2?
That would be fine if you like.
Let's do it. Okay, awesome.
I
I will
could-
be right here figuring it out. Okay, sorry about that.
I could try to share mine and see if it works.
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks, Michael.
Okay, let's do
Then
that.
we'll-
We can start
Yeah,
now.
we can find out if it's a room issue or.
I think it's a me issue. I'm afraid of it. So hopefully you all look good here. Please go ahead and get started. I don't want to hold us up. I can be third.
Okay, are you seeing my presentation
That looks
now?
great.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
perfect. I'm pretty sure
That's
it's my
good.
browser.
Okay, yeah, I wish I had, I've had that happen before and I do not know the good solution.
I know,
Sometimes
and
it's been my, if you have security on there like a VAS, sometimes that interferes. So I've deleted that and it's worked in the past, but that's a, kind of a scary thing to do.
Right.
So-
No. So I'll do it in the background because I don't want to hold everyone up. So please go ahead. Do we want to go ahead with second presenter?
Just a quick. If you think checking another browser, maybe it's helpful. If you are on Chrome, you can try Firefox or Explorer. Just try different options.
Thank you so much. I'm going to switch to Chrome and come back in. And so please I'll just
That's what I'm
join
using,
in
Elizabeth.
progress.
Yeah, that works. Yep.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Perfect.
Sure.
We are ready.
We're ready? Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Michael Keithley, and I'm the chair of English and Rhetoric at Purdue Global University. And I appreciate everybody coming this morning. I know it's early on a Friday morning. My presentation, or part of the presentation, is called To Be Agents of Change, Writing Across the Curriculum Scholars Must Embrace Global Leadership. And there are conversations that go on at a lot of universities on different issues and different initiatives, issues, things affecting higher education. We have switched to the digital age at the beginning of the new millennium, and increased globalization. The last few years, you think about all the pandemics, all the calls for including employability skills in education, all these different learning models, artificial intelligence, and so on. And what happens to me a lot, I don't know about anybody else, but when I'm in meetings where these are being discussed, I'll say, oh, we can help with that. My WAC team and I can help with that. And they'll say, oh, we didn't think of you. And that comes up a lot. And so I think sometimes we're sort of, as WAC scholars and leaders, left behind, left out of the picture of these conversations. And when this is not a perspective I agree with. I like what, scholars like Ramia Zumbram and Krauss have been saying for a decade, that the digital age and all these initiatives are even more reason to include writing across the curriculum in these conversations. You can just think very basically, how much more do we do online? All our emails, our Google documents and stuff that we share, chats. WAC scholarship is moving in this direction of engaging even more in such initiatives. But we really, as scholars and as leaders of writing across the curriculum, we really need to be more proactive about engaging and reaching out and putting ourselves out there. So what do we mean by, WAC scholar, WAC leader? And I tend to put them together, WAC, scholar / leader. We know a few things as part of I guess, our field, that WAC success correlates to WAC leadership. There are some constraints here. We know that if you have strong WAC leadership, the WAC initiatives tends to be strong. It tends to grow. It tends to evolve. On the other hand, the opposite happens. If someone who is really the helmsperson for writing across the curriculum at a campus happens to leave, or leadership happens to become weak for whatever other reason, the WAC initiative tends to sink also. There isn't a ton of research on what it is to be a WAC scholar or a WAC leader. How do you do it? How do you run an initiative? How do you do your research? There weren't a lot of mentorships. I know when I was working on my degrees and coming up and getting into leadership roles and writing across the curriculum, I didn't really have anybody to go to as for a mentor. And I do think that's changing. I was participating in an AWAC session a few weeks ago with the graduate students in WAC Go, and some of us who have held leadership positions for a long time, the different breakout sessions with graduate students, just to give them some guidance, some insights into what it means to be a WAC scholar and a WAC leader. Often, another constraint is that WAC roles tend to be tacked on to other full-time duties. Even if you're a professor and writing across the curriculum suddenly becomes part of your duties, you may be teaching full-time. You may have a full class load. You may have service duties, professional development responsibilities, and so on. If you have a leadership role, it may be tacked on to another leadership role. I know for me, I've had WAC leadership roles at 2 institutions, and I was also a department chair. The first institution, I chaired 3 departments. Things evolved so quickly during the digital age. And plus, I was in charge of WAC and the Writing Center. And my current role, I chair, but I'm also oversee WAC, and I used to oversee the Writing Center too. So that limits us somewhat in what we can do at times. Jordan in 2010 made an important call, and that's part of the reason I like to give presentations like this. The institutions need to grow their own WAC leaders. They need to grow their own WAC scholars and really mentor people into these roles and provide some guidance. I think that there's an answer possibly in looking at global leadership as a field. There's a ton of research in the area of leadership, and global leadership is the new, I guess global is the new qualifier put in front of leader. Scholarship has shifted in this area, I think, in an interesting way. It used to be you would define a leader by their title. I'm the CEO of such and such a company, or I'm the dean of this, or the provost of that university. It may be geographical too. I'm in charge of the North Campus, as I was at one of my jobs. I oversaw the North Campus, so that was part of my leadership role. But expectations have changed also from moving from one culture. If you had, a university that had maybe a campus in another country specifically, you might be the sort of the leader of that country, of that, I should say the country, the campus in that country. But it's changed to bringing together what are the competencies, what are the characteristics of a leader, what makes somebody a leader. It's not the job title, we know that. Also, we want to be inclusive and bring in all cultures and all identities and have a really welcoming culture and climate. So global implies those things. It involves including various constituents, stakeholders. It involves looking at different contexts. What is the educational context today? It's face-to-face, it's hybrid, it's online, it involves artificial intelligence, all these things. What are our platforms? Some of us are presenting virtually, others are at the conference in person. Institutions of higher education also often want a very broad reach. They want to reach international locations, and virtual offerings seem to do that a bit better than having campuses everywhere in the world. But there's also domestic diversity too. Even if your university is not involved in other parts of the world like our campus is, then you still have a domestic culture wherever you're located at. And I like this term, writing across the globe, that Ramia, Zumberman, Kraus, and some others proposed about a decade ago, because curriculum does seem a little restrictive. We're not only looking at what's going on with WAC. We shouldn't only be searching what's going on with WAC in our courses, but how else might WAC serve sort of the greater good, if you want to think of it that way. Secretly at Purdue Global, we refer to our initiative as a Writing Across the Globe initiative. So having said that, the global leadership studies can provide insights into the characteristics and qualities of pursuing WAC scholarship with this global perspective, this global mindset. What are those leadership qualities? I really wanted to start researching this also in terms of how can I be a change agent? How can I get not only myself, but my team involved in areas like IDEA? How can we support inclusion? How can we support diversity, equity, accessibility, which tends to get left out of those conversations too. So I really looked at this going back as far as my dissertation. And although global leadership characteristics or competencies are presented in a variety of ways, and lists with varying links. I think, I've come to the conclusion that there are 5, at least so far in my research as I've looked at this, 5 that are really important and that I think anybody who's researching in the area of writing across the curriculum or considering a leadership role in WAC should consider. The first one will seem pretty obvious. You want to inspire trust. Most cultures, most people understand trust and they want trust. They want to be able to trust those who are doing the research, those who are in leadership roles. They want to be trusted. They want to have a context where the goal is for everybody to benefit, nobody to be left behind, nobody to be marginalized, nobody to be sort of set aside. So looking at your research or your role as a WAC scholar, think about ways to do this in your research or in your prospective role. Some tips are to think about consistency, be equitable and consistent in all you do. WAC by definition I think fits in so nicely here because by definition it includes everybody. WAC is everybody's responsibility. Everybody's involved in a campus with or learning to write and writing to learn. So use a lot of strategies. Make sure you're reaching out to people. There are some terms I think that are helpful, like associative thinking. Try to put together maybe a part of and I'll talk about this more in a little bit, but parts of your campus that you wouldn't necessarily think of as a WAC scholar. I said other people leave us out in these conversations or don't think of us, but who might we be leaving out in terms of WAC scholarship and pursuing our WAC initiative? Who could we connect with? Try to build a climate of comfort around WAC. And some people will tend to say safe space. And I tend to not use that. I tend to use comfort because I don't want to imply that only my area is safe, the rest of the campus isn't, or the rest of the university isn't. But you want to make sure people feel comfortable. They can come and they can share their ideas. I always try hard to ask people, if somebody's quiet in a meeting, I will ask them, what do you think? Or what are you thinking now? And I make sure they understand it's okay, as I've done a couple times in meetings, to say, I'm still thinking. I don't know, what I want to share at this point, but I will share in the future, that it's okay to do those things. It's a safe, comfortable environment. But you just want to let them know you value their coming to a meeting or a conversation or sharing in your research, that you appreciate them and their efforts. And I also think part of this is communicating humanly, is I guess the way I would put it. We are in the digital age. AI is growing like crazy. We've been under pandemics and lockdowns and so on. I think people are craving our humanity, that human connection. So part of building trust is providing support and guidance for what it is to be a messy human being. Sometimes we make mistakes in our communication. You may misuse someone's preferred pronoun. You may have tried your best to create accessible documents and to research how those should be created, and made a mistake. And so just acknowledging those mistakes, and as a WAC leader or WAC scholar, providing guidance for others in your university campus on how they might also address those issues is often very much appreciated. There's a lot you could look at with inspiring trust. I'm going to add a second one, inspiring stakeholders. Diverse teams need to be energized. You want to jumpstart initiatives and goals. A few years ago, when the George Floyd murder happened, and a lot of organizations were looking at how can we do better with IDEA? How can we, let's look at what we're doing as far as diversity, especially. I offered my team immediately. I have a faculty member. I've faculty members who are international, some who have studied and taught writing overseas. And I said, let us be a part of, at least a few of us, of setting up our new DEI training. We decided one of the things we wanted to do was roll out a series of modules training people on what diversity is, what inclusion is, what equitability is, and so on. And those, how to create accessible documents. So we were very involved with that. Our Purdue Global WAC mission is on our WAC page. It's a publicly available page, but we make it clear in our mission statement that all constituents at our campus are included. We tend to think only of faculty and students too in terms of WAC, but also our staff, our advisors, our career professionals, our leadership. Everyone is included, and we deliberately reach out to them and empower them to be involved with us. And we share how we can benefit the organization. You have to be willing to delegate too. As a scholar, sometimes if you're headed in one direction, or maybe as a WAC leader, you're interested in something. I was kind of excited about AI, and I realized as I dug into it more that there were people who are better at it than I am, who understand it more, who are even digging into it even more deeply than I am. So I took a step back recently, and I said I'm going to just look at AI in terms of formative curriculum and formative development of students. We also have some math scholars on our WAC advisory committee who want to create resources on we have a WAC page. They want to create resources on how to articulate data. That's something a lot of people struggle with, maybe especially those of us in humanities areas where we've done our research, we have our data. How do we explain it? And at first my thought was, well, wait, we know how to do that. We're the WAC team, but then I realized, well, they're the ones who not only teach the math, but also present and publish in that area. So I had to let go of that and say, okay, yeah, I'll empower you as our stakeholders. You're absolutely empowered. Write this section up, these resources as you see fit. A third characteristic is to be a catalyst for innovation. And that word innovation gets thrown around a lot. So I think I probably could have just left this at catalyst. But how can you really, as a scholar, look at WAC in terms of where can it really hypercharge an initiative? Where can it really help in some of these forces that are involved with education today? I constantly offer the assistance of myself as the one who oversees WAC, but also my team and people on my team, to the point where I've been in executive leadership meetings recently where they joke about it. Executive vice president said in a meeting about a week ago, I guess this is where Mike is going to jump in and say he and his team can help. And I thought that was great, because that's a sign that they know now. I think more than ever, they know now that they need to reach out to us. It's a need now. It's not just, we could. And so I really liked that comment. Think about creative destruction too, in terms of WAC research and WAC leadership, or your WAC role. What outdated means of thinking, what outdated processes, what outdated assumptions are we still working with? Some of these are from others. I go in meetings and they talk about the 5-paragraph essay. They'll talk about, in the digital age and multimedia and AI, we can't keep having our students write just 5-paragraph essays. And I always kind of smile and say, we haven't done that for a while. That's a very outdated view, but sometimes it's us. Sometimes we have to look at ourselves and what we're requiring of students and why we're doing it. And so we can't be afraid to look, along those lines, and to tear down or just absolutely destroy what we've done, and then build something new. That's where I think the scholarship comes in well too. What can we build new? How can we make this better? I think an exciting part of WAC scholarship in terms of being a global leader or a scholar leader in WAC is to establish a vision. Visions can energize people too. And I love this even to the point of changing the world. Yuko and Kirky kind of say that in their foundational studies on this. Change the world, don't be afraid. I was talking in that WACGO session, I presented with another scholar, from Howard University, and we were talking about how early in our careers we did vision boards. I'm kind of pointing to the wall on my left because it's blank, but I used sticky notes, different color sticky notes and things, and just created, well, what are the parts of our university? What are the offices? What are the degrees we offer? What else about our campus? We have a career advancement office. Are they included? Who else can we bring in? We got all these things on this huge wall I had at the time, and then started trying to make connections. Almost like those crime things you see in TV shows with the threads going between different suspects' pictures. But who can I bring in, and what might they bring to this vision? And then developing a vision that can really energize those campus constituents. In terms of changing the world, that sounds a little silly until you look at advancements of things like AI. I was in a meeting when Chat.GPT first became a thing in January, and in the course of this meeting, it advanced 2 more incarnations. And so you think about how quickly things are moving. So it's not ludicrous to think in terms of changing the world. Dr. Sharma, who's going to present in a few minutes, and I are part of a strategic initiatives future thinking team at Purdue. And that's one of the things we're charged with on a regular basis. Where do you see things going in 5 years, 10 years, 25 years, 50 years? And where does WAC fit into that? What a question. We even got a specific example recently that I love because I wanted to be an astronaut when I was a kid. But the person leading the meeting said, Purdue is known for its connections to NASA, 27 astronauts, all sorts of engineers and stuff working at NASA. If you were going to take general education and write across the curriculum and make it part of a new space program at Purdue, what would that look like? What would those courses look like? What would you need? What would students need to know? So I think if you take this global perspective, it gets exciting, and I'm excited about that, about thinking how my team and I might be involved in that. Lastly, I think the 5th characteristic is just strategic agility. There are contradictions and things that are going to come up. I just sort of here, looking at change. How can we change our routines? We have ways that we typically do things, but is there a better way to do it? Who else might we connect again? All those things are about thinking and acting strategically. And again, if a new space program is created at Purdue, where do we fit in? So those 5 characteristics, I think, really can summarize, what it means to be a global leader and how you might apply those characteristics, at least as a starting point to being a WAC scholar and leader in this new world, this new ever-changing world. And I think some steps, just to sort of wrap things up, re-examine your own current role with WAC scholarship. What are you researching? What are you studying? What is your role? Is it a teaching role? Is it an administrative role? But what's your connection? And how might these 5 characteristics or competencies fit into that? Place yourself in that global and digital context. I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt who said something about put yourself in a situation every day that makes you uncomfortable. And I've started, really following that every day. What makes me feel uncomfortable? And this global dynamic digital context, I think, makes a lot of us nervous. So you look at artificial intelligence, jump in, check it out, see where you might fit in, where WAC might fit in. Look at your larger institutional initiatives. What is your institution really emphasizing? For us, it's IDEA, it's AI, and looking at the future. So connect to those, and then apply those characteristics to becoming that global WAC scholar change agent. These are just a quick look at the resources, and I'll wrap up here just sharing my email address. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. If there's anything you want to talk about or share or connect, I'm always happy to do that. Otherwise, thank you, everybody. That's my portion of the panel presentation. So I will stop sharing and turn it over to the next presenter. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you. So who is the next? I want to know if I have to pull up your the Rito's screenshot. Okay.
I'm ready. Thank you.
So
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. Happy Friday, everyone. I am Ritu Sharma and I teach English at Purdue University Global. Dr. Keith Lee, our chair, discussed the agents of change and how to embrace the global leadership. And today it is my privilege to share the most rewarding and meaningful course that I facilitate, and that is CM 220. It's a college composition course rooted in persuasive writing and presentation skills that are used to improve the community, workplace, or even a group that my students may belong to. Furthermore, this course empowers the students with skills connected to innovation, research, and leadership. It promotes persuasive arguments that are ethically grounded and equips students to develop a plan of action to combat a burning issue that matters to them and impacts them. So it allows me to grow with my students and see them becoming energized by overcoming hurdles and solving problems. The students partner with the different stakeholders and develop this plan of action to solve any problems. So they start their academic journey as being vulnerable and powerless, and finally get to the point where they can be a positive change agent. So they choose a topic or problem that speaks to them. It may be based on addiction that might have robbed a family member, or a change in the school system, whether it's overcoming bullying or financial literacy. I often notice a slew of topics rooted in logos, ethos, pathos, and I witness my students' journey as problem solvers that enhances their self efficacy as they become the voice of the voiceless. So, Dr. Linda Flower, professor of rhetoric at Carnegie Mellon University, she's also the director for study of writing and literacy, and she speaks about fostering this public engagement. She examines various approaches to community literacy, including service learning programs and grassroots initiatives. Her articles underscore the significance of community literacy as means to cultivate informed, engaged students who end up as citizens and can actively participate in intellectual public discourse, work toward this positive social change. I would like to share this powerful quote by Dr. Flower. Community literacy depends on the social ethic and strategic practice of intercultural rhetoric to draw the voices of the silenced and the expertise of marginalized people, to draw people normally separated by difference into new roles as partners in inquiry. So, to be able to recognize and use that difference in the service of discovery and change, transforming rather than erasing the conflicts or contradictions. So, how it is this working hypothesis about how we might construct a community that supports dialogue across difference. So the students learn about academic writing standards and how to enhance understanding of a topic of exploration. So change writing invites original thought, open-heartedness, engagement, and my students practice using the various rhetorical model to advocate for a change in the community. And they end up becoming this positive change agent. And in the process, They will deepen their understanding of community issue and hopefully gain new insights. So I am honored and humbled to see my students morph from mess to masterpiece. So this is this endless journey from womb to tomb, civic or community engagement, how it helps my students to improve their ability to navigate the difficult times and grow as an individual. So the goal of intercultural rhetoric reflects civic engagement as it brings forth all the voices in the community. It creates bridges with stakeholders, regardless of their background, education, or training. And it's deeply rooted in this power of conviction. So everyone has a place at the table in this effort to solve a problem. So diverse voices, ideas are essential in addressing such complex issues effectively. And it promotes this notion that bringing everyone together, bringing those different perspectives, experiences, a more comprehensive, more substantial, and innovative approach of problem solving can be achieved. So sometimes I get students who might be disconnected, dissatisfied, disengaged. They are often characterized by a sense of disillusionment, alienation, lack of motivation, or lack of interest in the conventional systems such as education, work, or social structures. So their behaviors and attitudes might be a bit rebellious or withdrawn. Disaffected youth may experience feelings of frustration, even resentment, leading to a disconnection, sometimes from the mainstream society, and potentially engaging in behaviors that might be challenging. So the intercultural rhetorics are not easily satisfied with the surface understanding of an issue. So they are welcome to actively engage in uncovering the missing, the unrepresented voices in an issue and creating this negotiated understanding of the problem along with the potential situations, solutions to shape better and solid communities. And finally, leading to the sustainable and profitable future. And that is how is their journey documented. So the communal engagements, and earlier Dr. Keithley shed light on that. 2020 set a trajectory for series of terrible impact on the country's collective mental health. The declining health, inability to cope with stress, not getting appropriate amount of sleep became the new norm. So the conversion of this negative energy into positive creativity and growth, that is what this course emphasizes. It's this powerful tool. It helps tackle local, regional, national, and now even global issues. So, problem solving is that enchanted act that equips our students to remain calm, remain controlled, instead of feeling devalued, powerless, paralyzed. So, it allows us to release these pent up feelings, letting go of negative thoughts, exploring solutions by communal engagement, recognizing the value of community participation and the strength that can be derived from collective action. So, how active involvement and cooperation can enhance social capital, overall well being of the community. So, the positive change agents, they have this galvanizing impact as it welcomes everyone to defeat problems and engage urgently. So the course helps with untangling of issues and serves as a stress management and a life tool by striving to be this positive change agent. I have seen my students cannot perform well when they are highly stressed. Anxiety, trauma not only has the potential to damage health or lead to long-term mental disorders, including depression, it can also impair performance. So this makes it harder for them to retain information, pay attention, think critically, plan, organize, or control emotions. So this project often sees those students witnessing this phenomena and transforms them by exploring solutions, how we can be part of the solution team instead of the problem team, and how we can lower our emotional reactivity to uncomfortable situations, how we bring our emotions, motivations, and how we align them with our deepest values. So, this definite course of action, this innovative, unique solution, it allows my students to incorporate the brain power to first understand themselves, their community, their surroundings, and then see this change. So the change empowers them to gain control and manage the problem. And it serves as that fascinating pill that compounds into remarkable results. So there are tons of thought-provoking topics. Over the years, I've noticed this shift. Students cover a vast variety of topics stemming from sociology, science, biology, criminal justice, psychology, healthcare, gentrification, gaming, to bigger, more complex topics like international issues, immigrants in Norway, labor rights in Dubai, how France is grappling with income inequality or social disparities, how there's youth unemployment and high public debt in Italy. And I have seen my students trying to combat such issues, whether it's domestic violence, LGBTQA, healthy lifestyle, enforcing bike lanes, painkiller addiction, contaminated water, marine life destruction, hate crimes. So the course allows this positive channel to not only experience and reflect, but also find viable avenues to conquer these issues effectively. And yes, certainly the solution won't be in plain sight, but stepping back, reconfiguring, and finally marching forward with a strategic plan will help to see the bigger picture and discover some concrete solutions, not just to earn a grade, but to be that ray of hope for the entire community. So it's about empowerment, being voice of the voiceless, going back to the marginalized community, acting as macronutrients for human brains. So shedding light on the power of minority, where the students are now does not determine where they will be in 5 years. No matter what the current struggles and challenges are, future can always be brighter and better. And the test of courage comes from those, the ones who have expertise, the ones who are minority, and making sure acting as this transformational change agent. And the slide talks about various different engagement. And here we have uh, Dr. Randon as well as Yep. And Laura Randon's book, Senti Pensante, explores an innovative approach to pedagogy that emphasizes holistic education, social justice, liberation. This book proposes this pedagogical framework that integrates intellectual, emotional dimensions of learning to foster wholeness in our students. And she argues that traditional education sometimes might neglect some of these aspects, leading to fragmented learning experiences. So, incorporating this emotional, intuitive thinking, intellectual, analytical dimensions, we can create this educational environment that empowers our students to engage critically with the issues and to strive for a better life by forming a better community. So she demonstrates the positive outcomes and how also it helps exponentially by increasing the levels of student learning, retention, and finally graduation. Such education benefits our students across various dimensions and significantly enhance their academic achievement. And Kathleen Yep's article, Why Are You So Mad? I remember attending this educator exchange where they talked about once in a while receiving angry emails from the students and how for a fraction of a second, it might rattle us. But to take that moment and send them an email asking, Are you all right? How important that is, not to be concentrating on what feelings are invoked when we read it, but reaching out by touching base, by making sure that the student is all right. And that is what this article reminds me. The author investigates the challenges, the opportunities, using these critical multiculturalist pedagogies in community based learning settings. And she claims that community based learning offers opportunities, can also expose underlying tensions, conflicts. So, how do we promote understanding, empathy? How do we enhance the well being through immersion, through development of skill, through connections with people, cultures, and potential for better experiences? So, this is how the productive citizenship and contributing to the society by becoming a positive change agent starts. So, the project details the elements of the project, and over the years, my students amaze me. I am paid to teach the class, and I end up learning for free from every one of them. These incredible issues, jarring, thought provoking imagery underscored by this ever evolving landscape of our lives, and how it offers this platform to initiate problem solving, to use it to reform that one little corner of the community. So the course creates solutions inspired by real life events and offers that space for my students for dialogue by encouraging them to collaborate and partner with the stakeholders to have the shared solution approach. And studies indicate creativity can solve problems. So the next slide would talk about my students emerging, how they pick these different topics, how they come out as these change examples, how they integrate creative stakeholders, the community that they didn't want to talk to, but how they manage to mask their own personal feelings and reach out and create this partnership to find solutions. And it's a worthwhile step to addressing local, regional, national, global issues and simultaneously creating resilience and a better student experience. So the next slide talks about these ambassadors, how these scholars, whether they are faculty, staff, students, and especially for me to focus on my students, how they emerge as ambassadors. So certain teaching methods and resources, we indulge in multimodal presentation. Someone might not be the best researcher or writer. They have another avenue that they can explore. They can use multimodal strategies to share their capstone project. And it helps adequately welcome those students to reimagine and forge forward with this collaborative approach to fulfill result-oriented outcomes. They contribute to positive results by making learning exciting, unforgettable, unique, individualized, and above all, engaging. So advantages of incorporating community stakeholders in education, they have been extensively delineated in this evidence-based study. It improves not only the classroom atmosphere, but also motivation and create the solid student engagement. So these individualized topics inspire students. It stimulates critical thinking and provide a wide range of tools for them to solve. And also I have seen it as a powerful retention tool, not of just the text, but also to facilitate this understanding. So the next slide shares their little journey from mess to masterpiece. Self-doubting students, how they undergo this meaningful voyage, and how the course boosts this self-efficacy through identification, engagement, deep analysis, revelation, and expression of emotion, shaping of self, connections with people, cultures, communities, with the potential for this higher life altering, community altering experiences. It offers them that platform to protect themselves, protect their community, and create this caring, nurturing communities. And the next slide. This is what my students are, crusaders, the thoughtful, purposefully designed, service learning, civic engagement activities yield greater learning and increased satisfaction rates that is demonstrated in the evaluations. This course creates pioneers, crusaders, by opening the door to an unhindered world of reimagining the problems that might plague the community and its people. Opening the mind, expanding on the comprehensiveness of every single learner is the key to discovering the solutions yet to be considered. So the students shift from being knowledge receivers to idea creators. They encounter opportunities to hone innovative approaches that such engagement work requires. By conjoining the academic knowledge, skills that are required to address such needs, students deepen and extend their learning. They indulge in engagement, gain interpersonal effectiveness, ability to collaborate across different perspectives, and a sense of meaning for positively affecting individuals, organizations, communities. And also, they entertain the idea of rival, opposition, challenge, misconception. So, through such engagement, knowledge, and insight, they no longer exist in just one mind. They unite in this mindful and caring community involvement. So, on the whole, students gain a consistent, a statistically significant relationship between community engagement, civic engagement, and academic engagement. And they actively engage in the community and tend to remain on strong academic paths and fulfill educational pursuits. So the next slide, and I like to address them as trailblazers. Community excellence is strongly connected to academic excellence, and how this engagement is this powerful pivot for leveraging degrees of achievement across spectra of students and communities. And the learning reveal a very simple yet sophisticated educational formula: academic learning plus this community engagement, how it creates student as well as the community success. And these individual actions are no more isolated events. These are collective actions that's going to have that butterfly ripple impact. So this course is uniquely poised to situate student learning, thinking, and action in the context of diverse community tribulations, followed by possibilities. So it provides that framework for interacting with difference and achieving excellence and equity. It has the potential to help my students develop their capabilities for understanding their purpose, their role in the complex social, economic, and regional systems. And while students may find the gravity of contemporary issues daunting, they can learn life-altering lessons by successfully affecting change through engagement. And this paves way for not only student success, but certainly the academic and community success. So the next slide talks about these scholars emerging as pioneers. And I am so honored and proud to share that my students, they have emerged as pioneers. They might have started as struggling students. And whether it's about sharing a proposal at the city council or school board of education or research to a head park ranger or any other departments, including convincing the company commanders to revisit and reconsider an archaic draconian policy, my students find their voice and demonstrate a growing and effective communication across difference. They develop this sense of community, how to build it, and how to further sustain it. So, this sensibility is also a major factor in students' demonstrated skills to work in a collaborative manner with the partners. So this development of skill set helps them to improve and progress through the program. And it includes reflection, this contemplative practice, and mindfulness visioning, ability to communicate across no matter what differences, to engage and conquer the difficult conversations. So may I welcome, invite, and challenge you to collaborate and create such opportunities with projects and facilitating and promoting learning in the class. So the final slide, that is a list of references. And I have Mahatma Gandhi and his favorite quote here: be the change you want to see in the world. Instead of complaining, we don't have this or we don't have that, let's see how we can work together and create a better society. Thank you so much. And over to Elizabeth.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much. So I'm gonna stop sharing. And
Great.
can you
Okay.
share your screen?
I believe I can. I'm in Chrome now, so I'm trying one more time here.
Okay.
So we'll give this a shot.
Mm-hmm.
I think it told me it was doing it, and if not, I'll start running through without sharing. So thank you so much for these wonderful talks, Dr. Keithley and Dr. Sharma. I thought it was sharing here. Let's try just one more thing. So I'm going to take a little bit of a turn here talking about TAs, so teaching assistant support for, so I feel like there was a lot happening today talking about agents of change. We're talking globally. I'm going to focus in on teaching assistants and how they can be a really big part of writing across curriculum work. So I think, and in terms of time here, I am having trouble sharing, so I really apologize. The script that I was going to put on the screen is in the Dropbox, so hopefully you can see it there if you'd like to take a look. I'm always happy to email it along if you'd like to later, but I'll try to, I want to make sure we have time for questions, so I'll run through kind of an abbreviated version of the presentation here. I'll try to take something like 10, 12 minutes. And since I don't have my visual here, I'll just, thanks for your patience on that. I'll just bring us through kind of some of the outlines of this research study that, in fact, has been co-conducted with me and Kathleen Weiss. And so we were really focused on teaching assistants and how they do really play a crucial role in university teaching, often teaching, instructing in writing intensive courses. And whether they're serving as instructors of record, leading discussion sections, acting as graders, or taking on other roles, these teaching assistants across disciplines do a lot of that really important support for writing instruction in all across disciplines, biology to anthropology to just history, to all fields really at a number of institutions. So we wanted to study a model of WAC TA training that is drawing explicitly on the expertise of experienced TAs from across disciplines. So we think this is kind of an interesting and unique model. We wanted to take a closer look at it. This is the Writing Across Curriculum TA Fellow Program at University of Wisconsin-Madison, where Kathleen, my co-author, and I both served as graduate student assistant directors when we were in graduate school at Wisconsin. We helped organize these programs, this training and working with these TA fellows. So this role is experienced TAs from across disciplines who have been teaching writing intensive courses. And they then in turn are selected by the WAC program at Wisconsin to help run a TA training for new instructors. So what we really wanted to see was involving these TAs in other fields so closely in running and facilitating this kind of important WAC training. What do they get out of it? What do these folks from across field, again, anthropology, social work, biology, having them focus so much on WAC and teaching writing, what do they take from it? So we ended up conducting surveys and had about 33 surveys and 8 follow-up interviews, and from folks who had served as these WAC TA fellows over the course of the past several years. Some of these folks had served in this role 20 years ago. Some had served in it as recently as 5 years ago from when they took the survey. So I want to run through what they said they really took from this experience. So I'll highlight a couple of key takeaways they mentioned. But first, I want to say a little bit about this training they were running and the role of the TA fellow, the WAC TA fellow. So essentially, WAC TA fellows again are selected by course coordinators because they've served as excellent instructors in their teaching. And then from there, these TA fellows go on to facilitate a 2-day training for new writing intensive course instructors. Typically about 70, 40, a big number of new instructors. WAC TA fellows do a number of things during the training, but most notably they design breakout sessions on topics related to teaching with writing. So peer review, rubric design, tips for teaching science writing, really based on their own experiences, they run these breakout sessions. They receive a small stipend, $500 for their work. They also go through an extensive prep kind of trajectory to run these breakouts. They have handouts, they have materials developed for the breakouts, and then those are workshopped with fellow TAs, the TA fellow cohort, and then also the WAC staff. So really well prepared as they go into it. So in a more extended version of this, I tell you more about how we studied this, what our surveys look like, what our interviews look like. But we ended up doing surveys and interviews asking people, hey, what'd you get from this experience of serving as a WAC TA fellow, planning these breakouts, organizing these sessions, and running this training for new TAs? And specifically, these TA fellows highlighted two key takeaways of what they took from this experience. They said that they really built teaching community, number one, so I'll say a few things about that, and then also that they really felt better prepared to move from a student role to a faculty role. So I'll say a bit about both of those. In terms of teaching community, what we really learned was that these teaching assistants across fields said this was one of the only teaching experiences and definitely sustained experiences for really thinking about teaching and teaching training that they had access to while they were graduate students. So that was very powerful for these TAs. Many also went on to talk about how these programs developed long-lasting relationships among TA fellows who got to know each other and kept working together in things like writing groups. One of the TAs who was a social work PhD student at the time, she said, I felt a little bit like I was finding my people. She said at a huge research institution that intimidated me. This was one location where it felt custom made to find like-minded folks. Another TA fellow mentioned from communication arts mentioned that in these kinds of teaching communities, she could focus on pushing aside toxic teaching practices she saw modeled in other places. Another fellow who did this work in 2007 and was studying theater research at the time agreed. They said that doing this kind of work, developing a training for new instructors and focused on writing intensive courses, it allowed this fellow to even serve more as a passionate defender of students, and said it made him dislike instructors who constantly complained about their terrible students. So really some of this shared connection around what it means to be a teacher to support students. So that's kind of an abbreviated takeaway one. What did TA fellows get out of this role? And then I'll just say a few things about a second big takeaway folks mentioned. They really mentioned this opportunity to transition from teacher to teacher trainer and from student to faculty. So this was probably the most common finding from our surveys and interviews. For instance, a sociology PhD mentioned that this was, again, one of the only leadership and training experiences they had as a graduate student. A theater and drama PhD, who's now a professor and academic advisor, said they first really discovered their love of teaching teachers and mentoring TAs in this role. Commented on the long-lasting effects of wanting to seek out and do that kind of program work. Another former TA fellow mentioned that They learned that they enjoyed the trainer role, found that themselves wishing for more opportunities to engage with writing as a teacher trainer. And this, in fact, was a master's student in water resources management, who served as a fellow in 2013. So really interesting to even get that much of a link to this field. That same participant said they were even more enthusiastic about this material as a trainer than they were when they just had to take this training as a student, as a new TA. And then finally, I'll mention one instructor who's gone on, one TA who's now gone on to run a community education program, mentioned that he really felt he got to go from thinking about his own singular classroom to these shared practices across classrooms. And he talked about that as a kind of ripple effect. So that was pivotal for, he said, for him as a graduate student envisioning a future career. How can you work more broadly in programs and think about the effects of our teaching, across an institution. So the other pieces of this research really focus on, folks who served as TA fellows took a lot out of this experience. What made this role so valuable for these participants? And we ended up honing in here on funding. It's a small amount of funding, but fellows receive $500 for participation. Folks mentioned really feeling that made them feel like they could spend time on this. They're very, very busy as TAs. They were able to devote some time to this, saying, hey, this is being compensated. Recognition for this role goes out through letters to your department chair, your dean, your advisor, and folks also really mentioned feeling honored and recognized. Participants, TA fellows also mentioned quite frequently the program leadership and the appreciation for the workshopping of the breakout session materials, the real support and enthusiasm that the WAC program had while training for this role. And so those, in very brief, are kind of, what TA fellows said they took out of this experience, in particular that teaching community and that focus on moving from student to future professional and teacher to trainer. And then also, what made this programming really effective: funding, recognition, and the program leadership and support and enthusiasm. And so I'll just say in closing here, and happy to talk in our remaining time for Q&A, that this is, not very many TAs do this at a time. So I'm glossing over really fast here, but this tends to be about 3 or 4 TAs a semester who end up working with this training. So that's, hey, this isn't affecting a huge number of TAs, but our research is really showing what one of our participants was saying, that kind of ripple effect. So TAs are forming these broader teaching communities after engaging with WAC. They're taking WAC principles not only back to their home departments as their TAs, but into their future faculty roles. So, what we argue from this research is that even short-term leadership roles may have very long-term impacts, and that WAC would really benefit from thinking about TA roles and teaching assistants across disciplines as, ambassadors, supports, as really, doing WAC work as well, and doing important WAC work and doing it in partnership with our programs. So I'm happy to say more about any of this in Q&A, but I'll just leave it at that. So I think that might leave us about, well, I'm sorry, I tried to leave even more, but about 8 minutes for questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So is there any question?
I actually had a question for Dr. Keithley and Dr. Sharma, because I know you're teaching in the same program, if I'm right. I'm thinking. So I'll just I think I wanted to ask a little bit about, I know you are global, but where are your instructors situated? Are you in a number of different locations, or I just wondered how that worked and kind of the communication between, is it different campuses, or what does that look like?
Sure. So we have, our department has about 140 faculty, 30 of them are full-time. We've got an assistant chair who's full-time as well, in addition to me. And we're mostly located in the continental United States, but we do have faculty who are overseas or overseas temporarily. And so it does give us a nice global perspective for our program.
Very cool. And I asked that in part because I was thinking about how you were talking about, the kind of characteristics needed for communicating across these kind of global and specifically WAC collaborations. And I was thinking that must be a unique experience communicating, globally. What does that mean to maintain those connections as even as a program?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, it definitely makes it interesting at times. And it's funny too, how sometimes things just come together. There'll be a question about something, or did you hear about, this going on in the Bologna project or something? And I can say, oh, you know what? We happen to have a faculty member in Prague, and so it does, you are able to make some connections, I think, at a deeper level at times.
Thank you.
Sure.
So if there is no more question from the audience here or online audiences, so we can end this session if it's fine with you.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Great to see you both. Take care.
Thank you.